because in my opinion, Black women get the brunt of almost every ism and stigma in America. Sexism, classism, ageism, colorism, and racism. And when it comes to colorism, dark-skinned women tend to get the brunt of that ism as well.
Hey everyone, and welcome to Do Tell with me, Sienna Michelle, where the aim is to always bring to light what is too often left in the dark. And today, I hope we're successful in doing that. But before we even get into today's conversation topic, I need a favor. Just a tiny favor. I'm gonna need you to subscribe. Yeah, just, the little button that says subscribe, very easy, costs you absolutely nothing, and one more thing, notification bell. Yeah, just click it for me. Why don't you just, again, costs you nothing, takes 1 second, just ding, 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 click that for me. And that's all I need you to do, okay? I'll give you some time to do it. Done? Okay, awesome. Now let's get right into it. Colorism. Yeah, I'm gonna just start by ripping the band-aid off. No prelude here. Colorism. Now, if you look up the definition of the word on dictionary.com, it is defined as prejudice or discrimination against individuals with a darker skin tone, typically among people of the same ethnic or racial group. Now, when hearing that definition alone, it sounds like kind of a simple term, right? A sort of simple concept, but it is so far from simple. Colorism is an issue that has plagued the Black community, society really, for centuries. As usual, this dates all the way back to slavery. Actually, let's take a little look at the Willie Lynch letter, The Making of a Slave. Now, Lynch was a British slave owner in the West Indies who, in 1712, was invited to the colony of West Virginia to teach slave owners how to own their slaves. In his speech, Willie Lynch said he had a foolproof method for controlling Black slaves. I guarantee every one of you that if installed correctly, it will control slaves for at least 300 years. That's what he said, verbatim. Actually, let me read a little excerpt from that speech. I have outlined a number of differences among the slaves, and I take these differences and make them bigger. I use fear, distrust, and envy for control purposes. And of course, on that list of differences was complexion, the color of one's skin. The Black slave receiving this indoctrination shall carry on and will become self-refueling and self-generating for hundreds of years, maybe thousands. You must use the dark-skinned slaves versus the light-skinned slaves, and the light-skinned slaves versus the dark-skinned slaves. These kits are our keys to control. Use them. Have your wives and children use them. Never miss an opportunity. If used intensely for 1 year, the slaves themselves remain perpetually distrustful. Thank you, gentlemen. Some may minimize colorism to the light-skinned versus dark-skinned drama that many people in the Black community are familiar with, but it's not that trivial. It's as serious as there being a significant lack of dark-skinned representation in media. It's as life-changing as dark-skinned Black people being 30% more likely to go to jail than their lighter-skinned counterparts. And it's as detrimental as my dark-skinned brothers and sisters growing up to hate the skin that they're in. I can go on and on about the history and how it has affected the present, but I want to do something a little different today. I want to have a conversation with people about this. So allow me to introduce to you yet another series on my channel where I have a panel discussion with people about a certain topic, as opposed to me talking at you the entire time. Now, of course, with Ms. Rona, these conversations at the moment cannot be in person, but that is what technology is for. That is what Zoom is for. So, without further ado, let's get into today's conversation with our panelists because it's about to get real.
All right, so welcome to the first in the Real Talk series for Do Tell with Sienna Michelle. So we're going to get right into it by first introducing the lovely people you see on your screen, starting with John. I saw you got it, bro.
Hello, I'm Jonathan, also known as Juicy on campus. I majored in Africana Studies and Criminal Justice, graduated a year early, thankfully, and I'm here today to talk about colorism, which is a heavy discussion that needs to be talked about in the Black community.
Hi, my name is Vivica. I am here to talk about colorism as well, but I'm talking about it from a biracial perspective. I'm biracial myself. It affects our community a lot. So I, want to talk about that because I feel like it's kind of one of those things that isn't spoken a lot about. I'm excited for this talk and I can't wait to hear the rest of what you guys have to say.
Thank you. Michelle.
My name is Michelle. I am class of 2020, Stony Brook, major in bio, minors in women's studies and health and wellness. For me, colorism is an important topic, and it's something that can be looked at in different perspectives, especially for me personally as a first generation, seeing how it is in America versus outside of America in different countries, because it's not just an American problem, it exists all over the world. Also, the way it links to other issues in society, whether it be economic or healthcare and those kind of things, it's not just one kind of bubble. It's it connects to so many different bridges that lead to so many different issues and concerns within the Black community and also other communities as well.
Actually, that is a great segue into not the first question I have, but a question I have here. So we'll just jump to that one. All right, so how have you guys seen colorism reflected in society as a whole?
I see it surprisingly on the daily, because as you know, I come from a multi-ethnic family. So I have my Barbadian family, which is the Black side, and I have my Mexicano family, and then I have my step family, the Thai family, and then my great grandmother was indigenous, so I have my indigenous family as well. And then so I see it on a daily, especially with my Barbadian and my Mexicano family, because actually a few days ago we were talking about children, and I love kids to an extent. So I wanted to adopt because the idea of having those kids without any families, that's why I wanted to adopt. And mi madre was like, oh, I hope you have a nice light-skinned baby. And, the Africana in me had to teach her. I was like, well, if I had a dark-skinned girl, it wouldn't make a difference. I was like, because I would still teach them the same values, still teach them to love themselves, their skin color, because we had one of our family friends who was Sam, he's Haitian, and he's dark-skinned, and he was talking about how he wants to find someone, and how he wants to find a light-skinned woman so he can have a light-skinned baby. So I see it on the daily. It's all in my family.
I definitely can add to that because I'm half Asian from my dad's side, and then I'm half Guyanese from my mom's side. So I only grew up with just my mom. So that affected me a lot, being biracial. It actually took me a while to kind of, recognize the two halves of me. because I was only growing up with just my mom, and it became a problem because in my mom's side of the family, that particular like Indo-Guyanese people, they're actually very racist towards Afro-Guyanese and to African Americans. So it was kind of hard for me to kind of come out as being biracial to my own family because I definitely felt treated differently, especially going back to not just racism but colorism, because my sister's a little darker than I am. She's definitely treated a little differently because of her skin tone. But me and her are the same, you know. We both have the same mom, same dad, but that doesn't matter. And it kind of sucks to like have to experience these things, and that like even though like these people are your family, they're gonna treat you differently, even though like you're my family. Like what are you doing? But it sucks that like we have this in our society, and this is how people treat one another.
Thank you so much for sharing, Vivica. And it seems both you and John have real similar stories of family in terms of the pushback you get when it comes to darker skin complexion. Can you add to that in terms of how it's looked in your family, or any experiences you've had in your family?
So, and a lot of my family members growing up, I personally like had the basic encounters that many talk about, like you're pretty for a black girl, or I remember in high school, like I encountered some ignorant individuals who would like make jokes, like when they close the light, oh, we can no longer see Michelle. In terms of like inside the house, a lot of the stuff was like who received favoritism from certain parents. I didn't have this issue, but like older generations, for example, like being Haitian and stuff, and like I know a lot of times they talk about like Jamaican with the bleaching, but it's all over the Caribbean. And like with like my grandma, for example, being like my aunt has a different father from like my mom and them, and like her dad was like, he was like mixed, and you know, because you know what happened in Haiti with all the French and everything, you know, colonization. Okay. So like my aunt is like really, really light. So like my grandmother like idolized her, like put her up, like, oh, because you know the light skin with the nice hair, you know, the perfect combination. But I do want to include the part about how colorism can affect people differently based on gender.
Yeah, for sure.
Because a lot of the time, while both men and women experience it, I don't want to like discredit like certain men, and also understand they experience it in different ways, especially in how society responds to us and how we experience things. Because for like dark-skinned men, yes, in some ways it's like they're targeted and stuff. It's more like a kind of racism political way. But at the end of the day, they still have that man factor, that patriarchal like benefit of the doubt. Whereas women, we're not only hit in like terms of like politics and race and economics, we're also hit in terms of love life and dating and how desirable you are. So you're also being hit in terms of like your confidence and stuff, besides being hit as, oh, because of the color of my skin, I'm seen as a target, but I'm also seen as ugly. I'm also seen as disgusting. I'm also seen as below than norm. Like no one wants to make a wife out of me because due to genetics, my skin is darker than so-and-so.
You bring up a great point, Michelle, and it's something, not that I haven't thought about before, but I wasn't even thinking about touching on it today, but we can, because that's so true. It's intersectional, right? It's intersectional, like so many issues. So I saw John and Vivica, you guys were nodding. So what do you think about that? The intersectionality of colorism when you're also a woman?
I think it's such a great point to bring up, because I discussed this in my paper/thesis.
You sure did.
There needs to be a distinguishing between colorism for men and colorism for women, because in my opinion, Black women get the brunt of almost every ism and stigma in America. Sexism, classism, ageism, colorism, and racism. And when it comes to colorism, dark-skinned women tend to get the brunt of that ism as well. Not saying that light-skinned women don't, because they most definitely do, especially when they are of a biracial union or family. But dark-skinned women, they get the worst effects of colorism because it's like they're getting almost attacked from each side. And men play a very crucial role in that because you have many rappers who perpetuate this ideology that in order to have success, you need to be with a light-skinned woman. And dark-skinned women are seen as, unfortunately, a side piece or a baby mama. And that's due to stereotypes and stigmas that are perpetuated in our society, especially within our Black community, that we haven't addressed yet. So you have people like DaBaby, or you have people like 50 Cent, or you got people like Lil Wayne, or people like A$AP Rocky. There's so many individuals, and then you see them with light-skinned women, non-Black women, and it leaves a certain image to our Black youth, to not just Black young men, but Black young women, where they feel like, am I not good enough? And then Black young men are like, oh, in order for me to be successful, I need to be with a light-skinned woman. And that's just not true. However, it is the stigma that is within our community that has not been addressed.
Yeah, for sure. Rebecca, was there anything you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, definitely. I think going back to what Jonathan said about like the stigma surrounding Black women in communities, I think especially for coming from like a biracial standpoint, you see this a lot because within like when people are biracial, you tend to see like based on like using me as an example, you tend to see like we only identify as one rather than identify as both. And when I did my senior thesis project on how higher educational institutions treat biracial students, or how they tend to not see biracial students. And one of the things I found like in my research was that when you have like all these different combinations of people, you see a lot of, whether you're like white or Black or Black and Hispanic, obviously the person who is Black and white tends to have more privilege, and they tend to not, even though they are biracial, like the person who is Black and Hispanic, they're not experiencing the same things simply just for their skin color. And particularly women, especially biracial women, especially who are either half white or half Asian, they tend to identify more with that part of themselves simply because of the stigmas that follow the African American community. It divides already a divided group of people. We want to be more united, but we can't be more united because there's these people who we simply do not experience the same things as some others in our race. And that is not their fault, but there is a division growing up, and you see it as they grow up, and you see them, especially as they get older, how they identify as themselves. But yeah, you definitely see it in women especially.
In part 2 of this colorism conversation, we start to do some self-reflection.
A lot of our actions to this day, despite us always talking about how much we've grown, how much we've changed, is still rooted in the ways in which white is the standard. It's never wrong to be successful. It's only wrong when you're going about it in a way that I myself see as toxic, and that toxic way is due to how society is so patriarchal.
Thank you so much again to our panelists for a lovely, insightful, invigorating conversation. I hope you guys enjoyed watching that as much as I enjoyed hearing, participating, and facilitating that. Unfortunately, we have come to the end of this episode. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, get notified, okay? Again, I don't know how many times I have to keep saying it, but I'll keep saying it until it gets into everybody's little head. Hit that notification bell that looks like a ring-a-ding-ding so you can get notified anytime I post a new video. And of course, don't forget to follow me on all my social media platforms. Instagram, Sienna.Michelle, and Twitter, Sienna Michelle. And again, like, comment, subscribe, get notified. And until there's more to tell, this is Sienna Michelle bidding you a farewell. Bye!